Okay, hello, Alexander, or should I call you Alex?
Whatever suits you better.
Well, Alex is quicker, so I'll go with
Okay.
Alex. All right, well, thank you for coming on the show, Alex. Nice to meet you. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me here. Glad to be
And
here.
today we're going to be talking about your book, and I think you're going to have to pronounce that one as well.
The
Panther
book is called The Pythagorean.
Pythagorean. Okay. All right, sounds Greek. Is it Greek?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Um, I'm looking at your bio. It says you lived in France for 16 years. Then you had the opportunity to frequently travel to Greece. All right, that makes sense. So, aside from this book, have you composed? Let me start again. Aside from this book, have you written other books or published other books?
No, that's my first one.
This is your first book. Okay, why did you decide to write and publish a book?
That's an interesting story. You know, uh, in my real life, regular life, I'm a computer engineer. So I'm running in a group of international companies, and by my job, I have to travel a lot. And when you travel, when you speak to people, you meet different cultures, different life stories. Then you start to get some set of stories that you think that you can touch the audience. That's from one hand. From the other hand, you start to feel that you have something to say that can be interesting to others. And probably the way how I presented that is to write a book.
Are you currently in the United States?
No, I live in Israel.
Okay, and you know why I asked you that? Because that plug behind your left shoulder is not an American standard plug. And I thought, oh, he must be in Europe or somewhere outside the United States. So you're in Israel right
Yeah,
now? Okay,
yes. I live in
okay.
Israel, and that's the Israeli type of flag.
So what was it about Greece that was attractive to you? What did you find that was to your liking?
Many, many years ago, I started to read ancient Greek philosophy, like Plato, for example, like Aristotle. And when you read what they try to teach, you understand that the meaning that they put into the word philosophy is not something, something abstract, but something very precise. It's about making relationship and how to construct your life, how to construct your relationship between yourself and other people, between yourself and the society around you. And I found it very, very important. And maybe, many people are looking for some meanings in their life, and that's probably something that they would be looking for. So a few years ago, I decided to organize and to finance documentary production about ancient Greek philosophers and the ancient Greek philosophy. In the end, movie was not released, and I decided that probably I should put it in the way of a book. And why the Pythagorean? Because the Pythagoras is basically the founder of the philosophy, of the meaning philosophy, of the science philosophy. I mean, the science, which is called philosophy of the word itself. So that's the reason why I decided to write a book about that.
You said that you produced a documentary, but it was not produced.
It was not released, yes. We have about 8 hours of documentary footage, sorry, but the movie is not produced yet.
Do you intend to produce it?
Well, I'm thinking about this still because it was like a documentary investigation, which means we didn't have the clear screenplay story. So we decided to go and to make different interviews, to interview different people. We met a lot, but in the end, when we received the material, it was far, far beyond what I was expecting. So I'm still thinking which story I would like to package and to tell with that documentary. So it's still on the shelf, and I'm still considering releasing it. Yes.
So it's the editing and what story you want to tell that's still in the works
Yes,
or
I can.
still
We can say that.
undecided.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
If my history serves me correctly, ancient Greek philosophers go back 4,000 years from current day. Would that be accurate? Some of this was 2000 BC, 1000 BC?
Well, I wouldn't say so.
No?
Uh,
Okay.
as I said, the word philosophy was invented and introduced first by Pythagoras. So Pythagoras said before that such people were called sophists, which means wise people. And Pythagoras said, guys, let's agree that wise can be only the god. So we can be only lovers of wisdom. And the lover of wisdom, literally in Greek, it sounds like philosophy. So Pythagoras was living 500 years BC, I would say 470. So basically it's 200, approximately roughly 2,500 years back.
Okay. What about Plato and Aristotle? What years were they around?
Plato is 4th century BC, where it's approximately 370 years BC. Aristotle, he was a student of Plato.
Okay.
So he's approximately maybe 50 years younger than him.
So I was 1,000 years off or so. Something like
Well,
that. Yeah. Okay. No,
plus
I
minus,
just
yeah, I would say plus minus, it's the
yeah.
4th century BC.
I was just thinking that somewhere along the lines, I remember reading that the Greek civilization began around 2000 BC or something like that.
Yes, that's true. That's
Okay.
true. The Minoan civilization was approximately 3,000 years BC.
After doing the research for all of this, and I assume you read a lot of Plato's and Aristotle's writings and stories, how relevant is what they were saying all of those years ago to what's happening in our world today?
The most amazing and fascinating is that when you read those guys, you understand that all the values that they tried to bring to people, all the philosophy that they tried to bring people, it's still valid today. I would say that the surrounding, the technology is different. Maybe the way of life is a bit different, but things that they try to teach are still the same valid. Nothing changed at all. For example, when Plato is trying to think about why, for some known people and noble people, children are not that noble. Is it a fault of parents that they don't spend too much time with children, or is it some other problem? And in the end of that dialogue, he comes to the conclusion that no one should compare children to parents, because children are people themselves, and when you take the child disconnected from his parents, he's a normal, good person as well. So and when you read such a things, for example, when a Greek philosopher says, please, when you do not speak for a long time to your friends or to your parents, please do not justify that you are too busy in your job, because that's a kind of lack of respect to them. And I would think that what's the difference that we have today? It's still exactly the same. So that's why I truly believe that it has still the same value today than it had before.
I think in terms of speaking to one's parents, that is particularly more of an issue now in Western culture and in American culture because we are so disconnected. I know more people who live on one side of the United States and their parents live on the other side of the United States, and they see each other twice a year on Christmas and
Yes,
Thanksgiving or something like that.
absolutely.
Even just 100 years ago, that was pretty uncommon, that you had multiple generations living in the same house. Grandmother lived with you, the aunts and uncles, the brothers and the sisters. Everybody lived together, even after they got married. When I did some architectural studies of old buildings and townhouses and things in New York City, the way that they had the rooms and everything set up were set up for multiple generations of families. And after World War II, when the families started to split up, many of those townhouses, they knocked out walls, completely rearranged the design because it wasn't suitable for the way the people lived at that time and to today, I think, you know?
Yeah, I fully agree. And with the years, it becomes only worse.
Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting. So, specifically with this book, how is it set up? Is it set up as a collection of stories, or is it told if in first person from your experiences, or how does it read?
It's a pure fiction book. I had a big discussion inside myself whether I should present it as non-fiction or fiction. And I came to the conclusion that today less and less people are reading non-fiction books. So, in fact, it's not only philosophical discussions, but the second part of Pythagorean teaching was on the connection of philosophy and science. I can tell you that, for example, when we were doing interviews and we were seeking for modern today Pythagorean organizations, I found 3 of them. And all of them, they consist only of high-level scientists, professors, university professors, physics, astrophysics, mathematics. And those guys, they form Pythagorean societies. So in this book, I wanted to bring from one side philosophical views, from another side, I wanted to bring some of alternative scientific views that can be also interesting for people, but it should be all packaged as one fiction story. So basically, I constructed, I can say, the story that a young guy who is also a software developer, he gets into a deadly accident. And instead of being dead, he finds himself in ancient Greece. And in ancient Greece, he becomes the student of Pythagoras. And Pythagoras should guide him how to return back to his current time and modern life. I mean, his current life. And through all that story, I try to fill it up with the philosophical views of Pythagoras, of Plato, with the scientific views of modern scientists that I have heard in discussions with those guys. And all that is packaged as a truly and 100% fiction story.
One quick question, and then we got to wrap this up. So your engineer who gets transported back in time, does he still retain his memory of the time that
Yes.
he came from? Oh, okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I don't want to give too much more away. I don't want to spoil it, but I was just curious on that point. Okay.
But interesting thing is that all discussions about the structure of time, it's also not something that I invented or it's my fantasy. In fact, Greek scientists, not one, at least 3 of them, were writing that there was a situation where different people saw Pythagoras in 3 or 4 different places at the same time. And I was asking those Pythagoreans, guys, how could you explain that? And one high-level member of Pythagorean society, he is a professor of nuclear physics. He explained me how they think it could happen and their vision on how the time is structured. And in that book, I described that according to their vision. So many things that you can read in the book and you can think that it's fantasy. Basically, that's not a fantasy at all.
Well, I think on that we will leave that and let people pick up the book and buy it and find out what happens. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Has the book been released?
The book has been released, yes.
Okay. Last question. Do you have a website that you want to give out?
Yes, the website of the book is thepythagorean.org.
Well, Alex, thanks so much for coming on. This is a big topic. I know we could have gone on a lot longer, but I think we gave people a good overview of your book. It was a pleasure meeting you, and best of luck. I hope it does well.
Doug, thanks a lot. It was a pleasure speaking to you as well.